footprint and specifically greenhouse gases. Jump bike would be a great opportunity for us, but once again, because of the infrastructure issues that we have on Franklin Boulevard and other parts of South Sacramento, we're looking at investing in our infrastructure specifically to allow for some of these other investments that come down the pike. So we are ready for it when we're implementing, and then also on the educational level to let people know about what is car share, what is microtransit, what are those orange bikes that are floating around. They're floating around in our district. They're not supposed to be per se, but we find them laying around, and that's actually a great educational moment for us because then we get to talk to our residents and the business owners about what could happen. There is a demand for it. There's discussions informally and formally about what options do we have or could we have. Jump bike is by far one of the highest demands in our neighborhoods, specifically south of Curtis Park, to allow people to access other businesses in our district. We have some pretty good breweries as well in the district that people want to access, but they want to drive to. So, and also with the jump bike will allow us
really
to...
Quick. We have a question from Director Harris, and somehow somebody hit Phil Cerna's button.
Oh. The ghost of...
Aha, Director Hansen. There we go. Director Harris, then we'll take Director Hansen.
Actually, I didn't have a question at this point, but since I have the floor, I'll just say, Nathan, you're doing a great job of bringing mobility options to enough neighborhood. And when we worked, Director Hansen and I, of course, worked on the bike share committee for 3 years, I think, to get jump bike. We
Congrats, by the way. Yeah, that's great.
we were very concerned about the equity piece. Right. And it's really enlivening to hear that jump bike can be embraced in the Franklin community. I think it's awesome. And we're finding this all over the city. We're finding jump bikes everywhere. It's because people are using them to get from here to there. They're really becoming a true mobility option, and I appreciate all the work you're putting into your community to make these options available. It's a great job.
Thank you, Director Harris.
Director Hansen.
Did you push the button? Hmm? You got to push the next button. There you go. Good job.
You're already on.
You're already on. I turned it on. We're still teaching him. This is his last board meeting after 2 years as chair.
That's true.
It's okay. I just wanted to say that, well, it's not been publicly announced, but there is going to be an expansion of Jump South. And so I think it's really exciting. The map hasn't come out, but the overall enthusiasm for the program has been unmatched by any city in the country.
That's
and
right.
as of last Wednesday, the number I saw was 640,000 miles ridden so far on our jump bike system, making it the most successful e-bike system ever launched. And so the additional capacity by expanding the service territory and hopefully more bikes will probably also be necessary north to areas of North Sac and South Natomas. The connectivity is not as good, but I wanted to, if you didn't know the good news, which it sounds like you do.
A little bit, but yeah.
Okay, good.
But publicly, we can say.
No, we're not really making an announcement. I just think it's important for people to know that success begets success. And our hope was in launching a successful pilot that it could grow. And I really think our staff here, because the program started at the Air District and then got to a certain point of development and then was handed off to SACOG because it was a 3-city program, it has been enormously successful.
Yep.
So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Garrett.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, I want to just thank you, Nathan, because I think the work you're doing along with bringing also the Stockton Boulevard Partnership folks. I mean, many of our commercial corridors are facing with these similar issues, and even on the jump bike expansion, we've seen a huge demand of folks who want to use it. I mean, we've got libraries in the south area that are not accessible except for one bus line. And so having this opportunity for parents or other folks people who are trying to use our libraries for places to do resumes and just the issue of economic mobility, not just mobility to get somewhere from here to there, is important. So, and we're excited about it moving further south and expanding. And the biggest complaint I get is I see that there's this special pricing for folks who are low income, but it doesn't reach the low income community.
Exactly.
So I'm glad that we're moving forward, and your test case and the work out there I think has been helpful, particularly with the on-demand transit. That's shown the test case that it can work in other places.
Thank you.
And I would just say, I can't wait for you to be looking beyond the city of Sacramento. I think there's many of us that are interested in this technology within our own communities.
We did look beyond. We looked at West Sacramento and Davis.
Look the other way.
Wrong direction.
Where more people work, I'm saying. Ooh. Director Carr.
Nathan, did you finish your presentation?
I'm sorry?
Did you finish the presentation?
Yeah, I'll conclude it
Could
here.
you go back to the ridership slide?
Yeah.
And maybe you or somebody from the RT board, I think we got some RT board members here. What's the break-even point? How many riders do we need in order to self-sustain?
It's a question I asked, and I don't know if somebody else has a better answer for that, but I don't know if there is, to be honest with you. But it's getting people from our standpoint. Our goal mission is, as you probably know, is getting people from point A to point B. That I don't know if you can, so to speak, put a price on it, but I think ridership is very important, and this is actually allowing people to take public transportation in other cases that they probably wouldn't have.
Yeah,
So-
well, we're probably not at break-even yet, but
Yeah,
at some point, it has to sustain itself.
exactly right. Yep.
And I think it's important if we know what that number is.
Yeah. And I think because we're still piloting and trying to figure that out, and once again, I'm not speaking on behalf of RT, but some of the conversations we've had internally, we're figuring that out with the data points that we're collecting at this, specifically for our areas in South Sacramento. So.
That's a great point, Director Carr. And from the Air District perspective, this is a reason why we are happy to partner with Sacramento RT and also with our friends across the river in West Sacramento, where they are trying a microtransit solution, but it's a private venture with the VIA system. We want to educate ourselves to make sure that these are new solutions. So clearly, we're not going to be there for a while, but to the extent that we find something that works, then we can at least do what we can to promote it and eventually get it to sustainable fiscal situation.
Glad path.
I should mention, because of the investment that's happened through RT and our partner agencies, Electrify America has come forward, and they're going to invest millions of dollars into the infrastructure, and by Q1, Q2 of next year, swap the carbon vehicles for electric shuttles and buses.
I've got to say, we got another comment or question from Director Frost, but I will say that between electric aircraft and electric vehicles, boy, we really like to dig into these things. These have been probably the most robust conversations that I've had in the last couple of years on this board. Director Frost?
Yeah, on that same page, I wanted to go back to the reservation source, because I think that it seemed like there was in one of our conversations, we were talking about the cost associated with actually having people there to take phone reservations, and we talked about possibly offering an incentive. They get a free ride if they do it on the phone app or whatever, just to get them used to using the phone app. Did RT do anything like that? I love their others. They're using all kinds of incentives, which I think is awesome.
Right, so we're pushing it when we're out in the community personally. I know our organization is, along with our community partners. I don't know the stats, sorry, at this point, but I can get that.
But one thing I do want to say, Director Frost, is in one of the lessons that we learned from our community car share program is at this point we need to make sure that we do what we can to provide access, because not everybody's going to have a phone. Not everybody's going to have a phone with the app, so it's not going to be a smartphone. So we just talked a minute ago about reaching the right people. So at this point in time, I think is resources well spent if we just get the program going. And once people become familiar, hopefully we'll get there.
Especially the seniors, they're not technology oriented, so they want to pick up the phone.
And that's absolutely right, to that point, that we are doing targeted marketing, if you will, specifically for certain demographics, and that's one of the concerns, most definitely. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for staff? This was a discussion item, right? There's no action?
There's no action needed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
So with that, we'll move on to item 11, Community Air Protection Program Community Selection Update.
As a means of introduction, I want to acknowledge and thank Director Carr. He missed the September meeting of our board because he was across the street testifying on our behalf in front of the Air Resources Board. We want to bring you the latest in terms of the important decision that happened at that board, and maybe after the staff presentation, if Director Carr wants to offer his perspective, and really want to acknowledge and appreciate the fact that you stepped out and helped us out.
Good morning, Chair Terry and members of the board. My name is Janice Lamb-Snyder, and I'm the program manager for the air monitoring, planning, and data analysis sections. So today I'm going to be giving a really brief update on the selection of the first-year communities that was adopted by the California Air Resources Board. As you can remember, the board signed a resolution back in July to authorize the APCO to submit a selection of 10 communities in Sacramento to be considered for the Community Air Protection Program. Just this past September, CARB adopted the South Sacramento Florin General Area as one of the 10 communities across the state to be a part of this first-year implementation. One of the key updates that we heard at the CARB board hearing is that, one, there was 10 communities that they selected, and that was across 6 districts: Sacramento, San Joaquin Valley, South Coast, Bay Area, Imperial, and San Diego. And one of the key message that we heard at the board hearing was that the communities that are selected for monitoring for the first year will be a priority for community emission reduction plans for the following year. So our community that has been selected right now for the first year for monitoring will be a priority possibly for community emission reduction plans. Another thing that we heard at the board hearing was that there needs to be significant inclusion of community members and engagement. This is a ground-up approach, and so one of the ways that the state board is ensuring that this happens is to have the districts convene a steering committee, an air quality steering committee, to help guide in our efforts for monitoring and our community emission reduction plans. And so the steering committee should favor the people, should be comprised of the people who live and work there in the community. So what is the district doing for outreach? We have a solicitation out for volunteers to serve on the Air Quality Steering Committee. We released an application and a letter to community members in that community, and the application is due back to the district on November 9th. I brought a package of applications for our directors, if you know any community members that live in that area, so that they can apply to be in the steering committee. We outreach to residents, schools, hospitals, and local businesses and NGOs in that area. We will be holding a public meeting on November 1st to provide more information to the community about what the steering committee will, the duties are, the expectations, and the type of feedback that we're looking for. And then the first steering committee meeting is going to be scheduled the last week in November. Resources for implementation for AB 617. The district received initial funding to do the work, doing the initial outreach, participating in calls, but the state legislature allocated $50 million for each year for the next couple of years for the state to implement AB 617. So the district's allocation for the first year, we are expected to be receiving. But for years 3 and beyond, there is no secured funding yet. So we'll be working very hard with the folks over at the Capitol, as well as with CARB to hopefully to identify the funding to implement this program. So just really quickly. The additional elements of AB 617, you've adopted an accelerated BARC schedule earlier today. There's going to be enhanced emissions reporting from cap and trade sources and sources within those communities, and then incentive funding will also play a big role as part of AB 617 to reduce emissions in the community. There are lots of opportunities with AB 617, and it is really to improve the air quality and reduce the risk at our most needed communities. Like we mentioned, cap and trade funds are closely tied with AB 617. Zero emission programs are going to be a key to reducing this risk. In addition to that, innovative emission reduction programs are going to be need to be developed, strategies, thinking outside the box, and that will be a model for the rest of the communities here in Sacramento in reducing that risk as well as across the state. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for staff? No.
No questions, but I'd like to make a comment.
Go ahead.
If I could. So this is a big coup for us. And I want to thank you for staff for putting this together and lobbying and getting us as one of only 10 regions in the whole state for increased monitoring. And what that will mean is when implementation time comes, the resources will come. I was speaking to the Air Resources Board was that they have some flexibility. We know they have to draw a line on the map, but air quality doesn't stay within the lines. And so when implementation time comes, we need to make sure that we can go beyond the lines that were drawn on the map. They didn't make a firm commitment on that, but reading the body language told me that they would do that when implementation time comes. So thank you for all the hard work that you've done on this. We really appreciate it. And the people in South Sacramento who will never know your name will benefit from what you've done.
Thank you. Thank you, Director Carr. So with that, do we have any public comment?
No, we do not.
Okay. Any board ideas or announcements? Go ahead, Director.
Some comments that were made earlier. I also returned from China recently and was amazed at the improvement of air quality in 3 years that they had attained. Of course, in a totalitarian society, you can affect change a little more quickly than you can in a free country. And they've done just that. In our sister city of Jinan, 3 years ago, their AQI was over 300 most days of the year. I mean, it was extreme. Their visibility was down to 100 yards on many days. And in my recent visit, their quality was below 100 and 70 on some days. And visibility was not unrestricted, but it was probably 10 miles. So amazing changes, and they affected this by largely going to nuclear power and taking some of their older coal plants and either shutting them down or moving operations to a different country, which is also something they can affect. But they folks in Beijing, and China is taking climate change very, very seriously and are quickly moving into a leadership role where they had been a roadblock 7 years ago. So it's very encouraging to see the change in this extremely populous country and to see what can be affected in just 3 short years.
Thank you. Director Frost.
I just wanted to put a shout out regarding our SACOG has launched a youth leadership program, and I believe you can go to sacog.org/youth to learn about it, but this is a great opportunity for young high school students to be part of a leadership program where they can engage with policymakers, go on field trips, learn about transportation and policy, and coming to our region. And it's also a great opportunity for them to put a great certificate in their resume. And so I just wanted to let everyone know about it so you could share it with your constituents and invite them to be a part of it. I think there's a sign-up period and it ends the end of this month, so there's not a whole lot of time to share about it.
Thank you. Anything else? With that, we will adjourn into closed session. Or no?
No.
I'm sorry. We're adjourned, and now we're going to have a budget committee meeting. Thank you.